Welcome to Blue Protocol Star Resonance. This is a basics guide for new players. Star Resonance is a free-to-play, social MMORPG. It's available on PC and mobile with cross-save functionality, so you can play on both. It has a lot of varied content that is simple and approachable, even for brand new players to the genre. To start out, you'll create your character to your liking. I was personally delighted with the character creator. This is one of the first anime-style games that I've played where I could make a masculine-looking character. However, even with the older looks, sadly at the time of this recording, you can't change the voice settings, so I sound like a teenager. Next is choosing your class. There are 8 primary options, each with 2 sub-specializations to choose down the road. These are split into Guard, Attack, and Support. Guards, or the tank role, put themselves on the front line and draw the enemy attention with their face. Many MMORPGs have complicated, in-depth threat systems, but this one decided to go for a more approachable route where by just existing as a guard class, the enemy will automatically be infatuated with you once you engage it. This allows the design to focus around using abilities for protecting yourself and your team. Early game tanking is somewhat trivial, but the end game becomes a lot more interesting, with boss and raid mechanics that require you to plan out your cooldowns and pacing. Next, we have the attack classes. Typically, to defeat enemies, you need to reduce their HP to 0. Attack classes in this game have a very large range of difficulty difference in how they play, with Marksman and Frostmage often seen as being simpler, versus Wind Knight and Stormblade having more depth and skill expression. If you choose to be an attack class, I highly recommend choosing whichever one interests you, as there really is no content in this game that requires class min-maxing. Each one has its own strengths and weaknesses for different content types. But please, as your tank, just don't stand in the fire. And last, but definitely not least, is the support classes, also known as healers. Just like tanks, the healer is a thankless role. Attackers will stand in the fire, and when they go up in flames, they somehow think that's your fault. Don't listen to them. As the tank, you're keeping me alive, and I love you for that. A good support can get the team through content. A great support can elevate their team to new heights. There is no wrong class choice in Blue Protocol. It features a system similar to Final Fantasy XIV, where you can change the class of your character at will after completing a quest. This requires a special item that can be purchased with one of the game's rare currency, so at least try to make your initial choices based on something that sounds fun to you. Next, you'll want to follow the main story questline, not only to understand the world a bit better, but also because the majority of experience for leveling up is gained this way. By the time you finish the storyline currently available in the game, and maybe a few side quests, you should easily reach the max level of 60. If you're not much of a story person, you can quickly skip cutscenes by holding the button prompt, or on PC you can just hit the escape key to quick skip. The storyline isn't particularly bad, but the way it's presented is definitely one of the weakest portions of what this game has to offer. After you're done leveling, it's time to dive into this game's content. Technically, some of these systems can be started before max level, but I'm going to explain all of them as though you're level 60. First, we have the exploration. Star Resonance has a vividly beautiful world, and it is hands down my favorite game when it comes to moving around. As you level up, it unlocks traversal abilities. These abilities include extra air jumps, a minigame that allows you to spring jump forward as you land, wall running, wall jumping, and at level 50, you can even just hold the jump button to float upwards. This is then paired with 2 resonance abilities that are obtained in Asteria planes. The first is Float, which can be obtained by touching the Hero's Herb in Ancient City of Vil. The Float ability allows you to, well, float. However, it also allows you to switch to a glide mode by just clicking once after activating the float. You can then aim yourself up or down to change momentum, and left or right to aim. Combined with all the extra jumps and wall running, this essentially gives you full freedom of the entire map. I use all of these movement abilities so much that I often forget that this game also has mounts. Mounts can be equipped and summoned, with each mount having unique abilities like sprinting, jumping, and flying. But something about parkouring and flying around yourself is just so much more satisfying. The second resonance skill is Phantom Dash. This can be found at the top of the towering ruin by going to Andra Resting Post. There is this little white orb that will activate a wind tunnel. Jumping into the wind tunnel will automatically fly you all the way to the top. The Phantom Dash can be used to break wind barriers found all around the map, but it can also be used in dungeons to quickly reposition and avoid threats. There's plenty of optional things to do on the multiple maps that are available. You can explore for hidden treasure chests and find puzzle challenges. Feel free to enjoy the fishing minigame to catch various fish and objects. Partake in daily leisure activities like parkour races, dancing, and combat patrols. Gather and craft via 9 different life skill professions. Join or start a guild to gather up friends for even more daily activities, and weekly guild hunt combat exercises for really good rewards. You can even get your own island home where you can fully customize the exterior and interior, with an entire system for cultivating rare flowers here, and you can even have up to 4 roommates. There's also a daily activity merit checklist for rewards in the Season Hub, and a huge amount of achievements to chase for trophies, titles, and cosmetics, with the trophies upgrading this seasonal armband for the ultimate long-term cosmetic endgame. But if combat is more your style, there is the Monster Hunt Log. Out in the wild, you can find various enemies, and this Monster Hunt Log tracks how many you have defeated while providing you with extra rewards. Additionally, there are elite enemies that are a bit tougher. When defeated, they drop a loot box that can be opened with an elite key for a chance at rare loot. And then there are world bosses that spawn once every hour. Generally, it will take a group of adventurers to defeat them, and they also drop a special box that can be opened with a boss key. All players automatically receive 2 elite and boss keys at the start of every day as another type of daily content. But you can store up to 6 of each, meaning you can take a few days off in between. However, these bosses also drop gear and basic materials that you can farm if you want to without having keys. When looking at them in the hunt log, rewards indicates what can come from using a key on a box, and drops indicates what they can give anytime they are defeated. Fighting enemies in the world is fairly casual and easy. For a bigger challenge, the game also has dungeons. This comes in 2 forms. The first is Unstable Dungeons, essentially a daily randomized boss that is super easy but drops fantastic loot designed to help players gear up no matter what their current progression is. And you are allowed to loot this 2 times per day. The second is your standard dungeons called Chaotic Realm. There are 6 different dungeons with various difficulties to overcome, and each one drops gear for specific slots. The higher the difficulty, the better the loot you will obtain. Each dungeon tends to have basic enemies and elites throughout that need to be defeated before reaching a boss room at the end. These bosses have varying mechanics to overcome, and to learn more about these mechanics, you can check out the guide section in the game. Go down to the gameplay section and check out the specific dungeon. There's generally an arrow at the bottom to cycle through multiple pages of fantastic info. Additionally, there is the daily world boss Crusade, where you can queue up with 20 players and take down a unique boss encounter. This is a semi-casual content and is mostly for fun and for some minor rewards, as opposed to the weekly Floating Island Raid, where you can take up to 20 players to fight a challenging boss with difficulty scaling based on player count. These require teamwork and practice to take down, but they give amazing rewards, including class-specific gear. There is also a bi-weekly special content called Stimen's Vault, where the goal is to continuously climb floors of the vault, defeating enemies and bosses for rewards. There are a lot of floors to conquer, but your progress is saved, so you can always leave and come back later. Now, for some people, the amount of daily and weekly content available might sound intimidating. This is where Blue Protocol Star Resonance really shines. If you miss any content that you have a high enough gear score to enter, the game will store that in the Reclaim Hub. Here you reclaim rewards that you missed out on. In most cases, the rewards will be randomized rather than how you would have target farmed if you were playing yourself. But it's amazing that if you need to take a break in this game, you can come back and get a large portion of everything you missed, so that you won't be behind. The Reclaim Hub is also based on the launch of the server, meaning that even as a brand new player, you can acquire items that you missed out on and catch up easily. All of this content is used towards player power progression through gear and upgrades that affect your character's ability score, which is broken down into many systems. The first is skills. Every class has 3 fixed skills that can't be removed: your basic attack, a special attack that is usually the core of the class, and an ultimate ability. Then you have expertise skills that you can pick and choose. As you level, you'll unlock more expertise skills, as well as slots to equip up to 4 of them. These skills can be upgraded with the in-game currency called Luno to power them up to level 30. And you can use specialized books to advance the skills for even more power. Books are much more difficult to obtain, so you may want to confirm which skills you plan to use long-term before spending any of these. Then we have 2 Battle Imagine slots. Imagines in this world are essentially an embodiment of thoughts and power. A Battle Imagine allows you to borrow that power to use in combat as an activatable skill. There's a ton of options, and these are arguably the most difficult items to farm in the game, as you primarily get items to craft them from weeklies or random drops from the daily keys used on elites and world bosses, or you can buy them for large amounts of currency from the player auction house. The battle will components specifically costing the most, but these are also available through a gacha system found in the basement near the alchemy vendor for rare currency. This is also the same vendor used to craft the Battle Imagines. Since they are so rare, make sure to read through all of them or check out some guides on which are the best ones for your class and party role. Which leads us to talents. Talents are earned through leveling up, doing training quests for one of the main NPCs, and from completing class trials. When maxed out, you will have 70 points to spend on your class talent tree. The first 30 are for your base class, and all of them will get filled out eventually. The remaining 40 are used in your advanced specialization, where you can customize the nodes to fit your playstyle. Talents can drastically boost your abilities, or even transform some of them to work differently. But don't be too concerned with your choices here, as you are able to refund talents and change your choices at any time for free. And lastly, we have gearing, emblems, and modules. There are a lot of subsystems here to fit into this basics guide, so I'm only going to briefly cover these today. Gear drops from dungeons, world bosses, crafting, and a lot of other content. At the endgame, it comes in purple or gold rarity with item levels of 40, 60, and 80. You are then able to reforge gear with stones obtained from dailies and other content to upgrade the stats up to a cap. Then, each gear slot for your character is able to be refined, giving you permanent stat buffs that are independent of the actual gear. And you are also able to embed gemstones into your gear that you either craft yourself or purchase from other players. These gems have various stat boosts. Emblem is a seasonal power type that you upgrade with void materials. These can be found from high-level enemies that have been corrupted by the void. The buffs gained from this system specifically make your character stronger when fighting void enemies. Lastly, you have modules. These essentially give you stat buffs based on the total number of similar nodes equipped. They drop with random nodes of various levels, and the more points into a specific skill you have, the higher level of that ability it will unlock. But you have a limited number of slots to mix and match to get these desired effects. So this was a ton of info for one video. I hope this guide helped you understand the basics. There's a lot more depth to each system in Blue Protocol Star Resonance. So if you want more guides, make sure to share this with your friends. If you have any questions or want to request videos, let me know in the comments. YouTube is going to recommend you another video on the left, and a playlist will be on the right.